This is Larry Zbyszko, wrestling's living legend, and you're watching Monte and the Pharaoh.
If you're injured, is to grow up and be a man. Come on.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, a special Saturday edition, usually seen every Thursday from 8:05 to 9 p.m. only here at Village Connection, broadcasting live from Rockstar Studios. At the board is the owner and super producer and co-host of a couple of shows, Mr. Jim Savelli. How are you, Jim, on this wonderful Saturday? What's up? And to my right is none other than the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh.
Hey, yo.
And to the left is, well, for me, is an oh my fucking god moment.
Yeah, it is, man.
It is absolutely. Barry Windham. I usually don't mark out, man, but I am marking out right now. No, yeah, I am marking out. When this came across our table, I'm like, you know.
I got the serious phone call that night. He's like, Pharaoh, we got to talk. We got a shot at Barry Windham. I'm like, there you go, Mikey.
And Barry's had a long day already, and we want to thank you for taking the time out and coming into the studio. Good. Were you at WrestleCon today?
Not WrestleCon, I don't think.
I probably got it wrong. I usually do.
Yeah. Or maybe it was. I don't know.
Did you see any old friends over there that you haven't seen in a long time?
I saw Ronnie Garvin, and I saw Greg Valentine.
Nice.
That's about it. I was busy all the rest of the time.
Yeah, big crowd.
It was all right. You know, it was 3 hours of solid signings.
Yeah, good. Wow.
Busy. Yeah. Good.
That's great. Well, the way this runs is Pharaoh's going to do a quick introduction on your pro wrestling career, which is clearly is iconic and Hall of Fame worthy. And then we'll hit you with some questions and hopefully have a little fun, and then we get you out of here. All right, my friend. Pharaoh?
Right. Let's have at it, ladies and gentlemen. Our esteemed guest's resume reads as follows. Barry Clinton Windham, American semi-retired professional wrestler, so they say, and the son of the great Blackjack Mulligan. Best known, of course, for his appearances in the NWA and the WCW, and, of course, the WWF, which is now the WWE. The resume reads as follows. Former World Heavyweight Champion of the NWA, former NWA North American Heavyweight Champion, class of the WWE Hall of Fame in 2012, WWF Tag Team Champion 2 times with Mike Rotunda, PWI, which we grew up on, one of the reasons why he's marking out so much for you, sir. PWI Most Improved Wrestler of the Year in 1982. PWI also ranked him number 11 of the top 500 wrestlers in 1993, number 11 out of 500. And then later on in 2003, many years later, a decade later, he still came in at number 35 of the top 500, 10 years later. So, PWI ranked him also at number 48 of the top 100 tag teams of all time with Mike Rotunda. Wow. Also ranked him 87 of the top 100 tag teams with Dustin Rhodes. NWA United States Heavyweight Champion, NWA United States Tag Team Champion, NWA Western States Heritage Championship, NWA World Championship, as I mentioned, the big one. Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championship 4 times. Luger, Dustin Rhodes, Kurt Hennig, and of course Kendall Windham, former WCW World Television Champion, and the 5th WCW Triple Crown Champion. This is one of our heroes, ladies and gentlemen. This is the great member of the Four Horsemen, Barry Windham.
Yes, baby, yes. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm exhausted. Hopefully I didn't bore you. But
again, you know, it's hard when we get guys like you in here with these kind of careers. That going through the list could take about 25 minutes, man. We got to kind of cut it short.
I did my best.
Barry, I'm going to open up and just ask you, how's your health? I know you had a heart attack a couple of years ago, yeah?
Well, I didn't. I don't know what happened. I woke up one morning and I had fallen and I tore some muscles in my leg and I couldn't walk, and I went to the hospital and they couldn't find any heart problems, but I was there for 4 days while they tested me and checked everything, and I checked out okay. I just don't know. I guess I just had a bad day.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't a heart
So
attack.
it was not a heart attack.
Okay.
So
I'm
you
glad
read
that's
also
cleared up.
there's a bunch of stuff out there saying you were like
Yeah.
on life support and all this other
You
stuff.
know
So
what happens.
just a bunch of bullshit.
There you go.
Well, that's good, man.
One less thing in the bullshit file. Good.
That's a good news. So,
Yeah.
Barry, did you always know you're going to be a professional wrestler? Right, you come from your father, Blackjack Mulligan, incredible superstar again.
When I was growing up in Odessa, Texas, I went with my dad to the Ector County Coliseum, and we saw Dory Funk Sr. fight. And my dad was, I guess he knew the Funks, or they had talked to him or something, but that's why he was there. And that was the first time I saw it, and that's where I was born. I'd been to all kinds of events at the Ector County Coliseum, and it was just something different about wrestling. And I knew then I was going to do it. So
Yeah.
I was probably 5 or 6 when I knew I was going to do it.
Right away.
Wow.
How much did you pattern yourself after Dad in the ring style?
Well, I mean, I really tried to be different than him because I wasn't as big as him, and he just wasn't really a technical wrestler, and so I tried to learn as much as I could. But as far as the brawling and all that, I guess it's all just genetic.
Yeah.
So I guess that just came natural.
Our first memories of you were back in the days when we had the old UHF channel up here in New York, and we used to flip to the UHF,
Yeah.
and we would get Florida Championship Wrestling, and I used to live for the night where it would come in nice and clear without the fuzz, without the snow. But hey, it's the truth though. This was the early '80s, and
Yeah.
here we were on UHF, and we lived in New York, and we wanted our Barry Windham. And this is where we first saw you. So I wanted to ask you, can you tell us your memories of Gordon Soley? And do you feel like he's the greatest announcer of all time? Because many say he is.
Gordon was all alone by himself as far as announcer. I mean, he did so much, and he was just one of the, as far as I remember, as far as television, he was a real barnstormer or a trendsetter, but because he just just the way he talked, the way he described the matches, I've done it myself, hi, backdrop, you just can't forget, and you just grew up with him.
Was Soley like smoking cigarettes while he was announcing on the side when he wasn't on camera?
He kept. This is before the big gulp. He had like a 64-ounce stainless steel cup that was gin and water, and he kept a pack of cigarettes that he smoked and drank through the whole show. And then whenever he was on camera, he was there.
And he was straight.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
He came across as razor straight too. Wow.
But afterwards, he was blitzed.
He is the greatest announcer of all time. He pulled it off. I had no clue.
Yeah.
Look, we've had a couple of famous wrestlers in. You started your career in Florida. Lex Luger came through Florida. You guys had a little bit of a connection in the beginning there before your careers move on, then you meet again. What were your opinions on Luger when he first came in, and as a human being, not even a wrestler?
Well, when I was in Florida wrestling, it was 1985 or 86, I think, and Magnum had his wreck in Charlotte, and he was a real good friend of mine, so I went up there, and Dusty asked me if I'd come to work while I was there, because Magnum was out, and I said I would. And I told him, I said, there's a guy down there that you need to see, is Luger. He's a phenomenal looking athlete, and he can learn too. And Dusty listened to me, and he brought him up there. So I mean, it's just That's just how the business works. You see somebody that has potential, you want to try to move them up.
But
Work with them.
you grew up with a wrestling family, and you hear rumors that Luger wasn't proud to be a professional wrestler. He was kind of embarrassed of it. Did you get that feeling being involved with him?
Well, I was just with Luger last week, and he's such a different person now that, it's just...
Does he get a bad rap?
Even he admits, that he was that way.
Okay.
What did he call it? He called it flex time whenever he was being egotistical in a way. He just called it flex time. And it was just something that he called it, and his wife knew what he meant, and his friends all knew what flex time was, and that was just how he was. But, he just... he's a different guy now.
Because your father was old school, I'm assuming, and he must have gave you those, that whole feeling, learning from him. Did nothing like that bothered you at all? Was it a different time, or did you feel that it was disrespecting the business?
No, I mean, at that point, I didn't really get that from him. It was later on, that he really developed that to where he didn't like the business. But when he was first starting out, he was fine. He was down there in Florida.
So by the time the Monday Night Wars are happening, Luger has changed a lot from those earlier days you're speaking of. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. You get together with Mike Rotundo, and of course this team becomes insanely hot. How did you two get together, and did this prompt a call from Vince for you to come to his company?
I met Rotundo in Toronto when I was working for Mid-Atlantic as Blackjack Mulligan Jr., and I was wrestling John Studd that night up there, and Rotundo came in the dressing room with Dick Beyer, and he introduced himself, and I sat and talked to him, because he was like my age, and all the other guys were 10, 15 years older in the dressing room, and we just hit it off there, and then I guess he went to Germany for a while after that, but that was another one that Dusty asked me about if I'd met him, and I said yeah, but I didn't know how good he worked. But I told him he was a good guy, he's a nice guy, and Dick Byers had trained him, and I think he was with the Briscoes, and they got him down there.
Who helped you develop your aerial skills? Because even as you got bigger, you got to forgive me. Last night I watched you against Flair, and you had gained considerable weight from the Florida days. You got bigger. And I still watched you throw a drop kick on Flair from the second turnbuckle. So where along the lines did you get the aerial? You were much more aerial than people give you credit for. And who gave you that kind of influence to become that way? Because you weren't just a brawler, like you said. You wanted to be more, and you did become more.
Well, I think when I was starting in Florida, I spent a lot of time talking to Eddie Graham and to Dusty. And, we were together all the time, and I flew with them. And we would spend 3 hours on the airplane wing when we got back instead of going home or going out to the bar. But, he was just so insightful to the business that I guess it just rubbed off on me, because it just, he said, work a match like you would be in a fight. He said, but work it. And, and I thought about that, and I just threw my own stuff on it. But as far as, coming off the ropes and jumping off the ropes and stuff, it was just to try to pick up the excitement in the ring, when I was first starting out, and then I guess it just became part of my repertoire.
Tell us how you get to Vince.
How you get to Vince?
Well, let me ask you this question.
Well, how Vince first comes in contact to bring you into the company.
Or we'll even say this. Was it the pinnacle to reach the WWF at the time, or the WWE? Or was that a misnomer, and, the NWA was just as good?
Well, to me, the NWA, when Dusty went to Charlotte and Crockett opened up, they weren't doing a lot of business, and they weren't paying the guys. And I made like $150 a week for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And I just, I said, I can't do this. And we were in Richmond, Virginia, and I gave him my notice, and Dusty told me, he said, "You just may as well already leave."
Really? So wait a minute. You help Dusty. You bring in talent. He kind of confides in you, and then you give him a problem.
We're really close.
Okay.
We're really good friends. We could talk to each other like that. It's just, he just felt like I was leaving him after, moving all the crew up from Florida and bringing this whole crew up there. But I knew they were taking care of other guys, and they weren't taking care of me. So it was just one of those things. But as far as WWE being the pinnacle, I'm sure it was to some guys, but to me, it was just another job, and I just never hit it off with Vince, like my dad did. So I guess that's why he held me back.
Well, your dad worked for Senior, right?
Yeah.
So did you ever discuss that with your dad, Senior, Junior? The WWE against the NWA, because the travel had to be less in WCW or the NWA, right, compared to what was happening up East.
Well, yeah, the travel there was definitely harder in WWE than it was for the other company, but. That was, say, 84, 85. I mean, we were in different ends of the country each night. We'd be in Seattle on a Friday night, and Miami on a Saturday. And
who's booking that for you? Who's the booker?
I don't know who was doing it.
You must not have been happy with that guy.
Yeah. And Vince was running. He had 3 teams, an A, B, and C squad. So he was running 3 towns a night. So nobody had any time off. It was brutal.
Yeah.
If I can ask, what was the issue yourself with Vince? Was he standoffish to you, or what was it about Vince that rubbed you the wrong way? And believe me, we've heard plenty of stuff. Just curious.
I just never really hit it off with him. I just never had I always had a relationship with whoever I was working with, or the bookers, or the owners. But Vince, I don't know. I just never got close.
So you were close with the bookers in other places, but with Vince, you were just one of the talent, basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
But he pushes you hard when you come up here, right? You defeat Adonis and Murdoch for the tag titles. You and Mike Rotundo. Any thoughts on Murdoch and Adonis?
Well, Murdoch. I mean, I loved Murdoch. When I was out in Texas going to college, I traveled with Murdoch as much as I could, and then after I was out of college, we were in the Amarillo territory for about 6 or 8 months, and I traveled with him every night. But I mean, he was just Dickie was one of those talents that, I mean, he could have been world champion, he could have been anything he wanted to be, but he just screwed around all the time in the ring, and he was a true talent.
So you didn't take it serious, is what you're saying?
No, not at all. And Adonis, I don't know. I can't remember anybody that really got along with Adonis or liked him.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. We're huge fans of Adonis.
Yeah.
But I've heard that. I heard he had a lot of problems with a lot. Did you ever have problems with Adonis at all, personally?
I never had personal problems with him, but
just not a nice guy.
Hey, how you doing?
Define Dick Murdoch not taking it seriously. What would he do in the ring that would be,
Well, I mean, like he would take bumps and do like Curly and the Three Stooges.
Perfect for you.
I'm loving this. Oh my God, that's great,
dude. That's perfect.
That is. It's great.
You should be a big Murdoch mark.
Oh my! I love Dick Murdoch. Yeah, that's funny.
I don't know, man.
My God,
I never looked at Murdoch that way. I'm gonna have to check that out
Murdoch
now.
was great, but now I'm gonna have to go back and check out the Curly.
But you're in the WWE. You guys, I remember you and when you guys came
Rotundo.
up. You guys were hot.
Very.
Not many people know this, but the U.S. Express, the Hulk Hogan theme was actually your theme first, right?
What's up with that?
That was your theme first. How does that end up getting taken from you?
Did you care?
I think that happened at the time when all the royalties for all the music started catching up with everybody, because we were using Springsteen's song, and I'm sure that caught up with them. But I'm sure that was about the time that they started producing all their own music.
Right, and then Hogan's theme belonged to you guys, and then I remember them switching that over, which made no sense to me. So,
Yeah. What was your favorite tag team to work with, if you have one?
Favorite tag team to work with? Probably Arn and Tully, or the Rock and Roll Express. I mean,
man, everybody says Rock and Roll Express.
they're just so easy to work with, and they sell everything. And
Any thoughts on the fact that they just never die? They're still out there. They're still out there kicking ass. I think the Briscoe brothers are ready to brawl with them in Ring of Honor. What's going on? They are unbelievable. Does that blow your mind? That they're still so incredibly relevant? They're finding ways.
yeah, Ricky Moore,
Amazing.
something.
Amazing.
Who never sold for you?
Oh, we should-
And you're a big dude, right?
They should
So
be
at some
good.
point, don't you get pissed off
Yeah,
if
who
someone
wouldn't
doesn't sell for you?
I mean, they got to expect something coming back.
I don't think I ever had any of those kind of matches.
I would hope
where
not.
Somebody no-sold me.
Okay.
You know, I pretty much got along with everybody as far as in the ring and everything.
Was working with the Iron Sheik hard? Was he high half the time when he was in the ring with you? Yeah, you're like, shit, Mike, you take this one. I'm going to sit on the outside of the ropes.
Barry the Windham. Oh, my God.
He would always find a room or a hallway in one of the buildings off by himself and go do Hindu squats.
Hindu
Smoke
squats.
dope,
That's,
drink beer,
yeah.
while doing Hindu spots. That's pretty good.
and then he'd go to the ring with me and Rotundo, and he was so funny.
Oh,
He loved us, so he just.
this is strange, though. I'm getting the sense you still felt safe in the ring with him. Sheik's just high and flinched, and he was doing his squats in the back. It's all good. You can dump me on my head.
Well,
I trust you.
He bickered so much with Nikolai back and forth.
Oh, really?
Oh my
Really?
gosh.
So you
Me and Rotundo would stand back and just look at him.
just laughed the whole time. That's
We
hilarious.
have to look for this on the network. We have to look for
Oh,
this.
yeah.
There's little sides.
There was a spot that we did almost every night, and it was where Nikolai hooked my arms behind my back on the ropes, and Sheik would go and hit the opposite rope and come and hit me with a knee. Well, Nicky grabbed me, but when the Sheik was coming, he threw me away, and Sheik went over the top, and he clipped the top rope. This is Hershey, Pennsylvania. He clipped the top rope on his ankle and did like a 3 somersault and landed flat on his back.
Ooh.
And me and Rotundo and let's see, I'm trying to think who all else was there. I think that Captain Lou was there because he was all over it. I mean, he was like, "Did you fucking see that?"
Barry, could we get you tighter to the mic? I just want to get you a little tighter. There you go, bro. All right.
Cool.
Cool. What do you got there?
Let's
Fran?
talk about WrestleMania. Did you know what this was going to be when you experienced the first WrestleMania, or was it just another day of going into work? Or what was this like for you?
No, I mean, it was really built up within the company. You know, it was built up for several months. I would say probably at least 6 months before. It was really a letdown to a lot of the guys because
Really?
we all thought we'd been told these payoffs we were gonna get, and everybody was putting down payments on boats and cars and houses.
Oh, no.
And they got
Spending it
1/10
already.
of what they were supposed to
All right,
get.
well, so here's the question.
You walked right into it.
What was the payoff for WrestleMania for you guys?
Was that your biggest payday?
Now, forget about Rotundo. I don't care what he got paid. I want to know what you got paid.
I think we made $9,000.
Really?
Split between both of you.
No,
No,
$9,000.
Each.
A piece.
Is that
And we were supposed to get 100.
what? Get out.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I said we got 110.
Oh.
Wait, but where'd you come up with 100? I want to understand. Like,
Those were just the figures that were floating around. I mean, I don't know if Vince said it or what, but I mean, you know, they were talking about how WrestleMania was going to be so big and what it was going to be, and
it was pretty big.
yeah.
Wow, that's terrible. I'm sorry.
That wasn't your biggest payday in your career, I hope.
No.
Good. Okay. Go on,
Yeah,
Mike.
Tito.
Get it out of him.
No,
Which
well,
one was it?
that's coming. But
Starcade?
Tito was here. I think Tito said he got like 4,500. something like that. Valentine got a pretty good, decent payoff for his match. I think it ended up being okay. So
For that WrestleMania?
For that WrestleMania,
Right.
for the Intercontinental match. But
Well, Valentine fought JYD, didn't he? At that
yeah,
one?
but I mean, yours was for the tag team title, which was a big, it's a
Yep.
big title.
Yep.
I'm shocked that was the payoff. And then Sheik and Nikolai, do you know what they got paid for that? Same or less?
I'm sure they
Sheik did it in the back anyway. It was already spent. He was squatting his cash.
Squatting his cash. Very nice.
You know.
So, WrestleMania was built on, a couple of things. Cyndi Lauper with
Very important.
Fabulous Moolah.
Very important.
So, years back, Moolah was actually banished for rumors of pimping out her female wrestlers. Did you know anything about that
Oy.
growing up through your career? And did you get to the WWE, and is that the first time you met Moolah, and you're like, oh, hey, how you doing?
No, I had met Moolah when I was young.
Really? How old were you when you first met her?
Probably 13,
Wow,
14,
just
I
a
think.
kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, she ran a tight ship there in Columbia, so, those girls, they lived under...
Is that me? Sorry about that. Good.
They lived under her roof, so they had to live by her rules. So it was just.
You think there's any truth to some of the things we hear? I mean, you know how the internet can be. There's been some really rough things said about Moolah, almost to the point of slave trading, basically with the girls. I mean, is there any? Did you ever hear anything that there could be some truth to this, or you just stayed away from that whole cauldron of controversy?
It was pretty close, She ran them, and wherever they worked, she got the money, and she paid them. She
Right.
took out their rent, and some of those girls, were down and out and homeless, and some, were already.
So there's a more complex picture here that's probably not being,
I mean, was she also pimping the girls out to the wrestlers also?
Oy.
I mean, I understand that she took a piece, and these girls were down and out, and this was part of the deal, but then there were the rumors that she was actually pimping the girls out, or they had to perform things to work under her.
I just don't know about that.
Okay.
That's fair. That's fair
Just don't
enough.
know.
Tell us about returning to WCW and becoming, basically, in our opinion, part of the greatest faction of all time with the Four Horsemen. How'd that go down?
Well, I mean, I had worked with Flair so many times up to that point, and we were looking at something to make an impact, and that would change up the roster, to where I could work with all those baby faces. And we talked about it for a couple of months before we did it, and we planned it out, and I think we did it okay.
No, you did it better than
It's-
okay.
it's
That's
our
one of the
favorite
that's one of the great
grouping.
angles of all time.
It's our favorite grouping,
Yeah.
too, of the Four Horsemen is when you were in it. So
When you turn heel against Luger is one of the great heel turns, probably in the history of wrestling, in my opinion.
is Ric Flair your greatest opponent in the ring? I'm just curious. I've watched several 60-minute encounters with you and Flair. Is he your favorite all-time opponent if you had to pick one?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, just for the way that we gelled, the chemistry that we had, and how a match would flow. And, we never even had to talk about a match or anything. We just went out there and just did it. And
Really?
Yeah.
We had a couple of guys in here though. They said, you saw one Flair match, you seen them all.
I don't-
Did you feel that way?
Well, I mean, he kind of got in a rut there after a while, where you do the same turnbuckle spot.
He was going there.
And
I knew it.
like fall inside.
Right. That's hilarious, though. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
but that was just part of his character. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just guys are going to do that, because they see him every night, but the fans don't see him every night, and they don't look at it that way. So it's just, I mean, it's hard to go out there and have a different match every night with the same guy 300 nights in a row sometimes. So.
Did you guys you wrestled so many times, did you get bored? Did you play tricks on each other in the ring?
We know about Murdoch.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of clowning, or there was a lot of clowning around in the ring. We'd tell each other jokes, try to crack each other up. look at the girls.
What, pull my finger? You're in the middle of a headlock, pull my finger?
What are you guys in the middle of the ring like? Check out that hot one over there.
Oh, yeah.
Who's getting her tonight?
Throw me out over there. I want to.
Oh, my God.
Hey, how you doing?
Was being a Horseman really like they say, like you guys were partying all night long, every night? Was that part of your deal? Women every night, drinking, drugging every night?
Well, I mean,
With the long blonde hair.
the way that we did the promos, it was just the way that we were trying to sell the show too. So, we would go out every night, but Rick would announce it on the promos for whatever town it was, where we were going and where we were going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people showed up to that?
It was.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it was usually pretty busy.
All right, so are you married during that time?
Yeah.
All right. Then I'll pass on that question. But you're divorced now, right?
Yep.
So does it really matter if I ask that question?
I mean, I was good. I was good.
Oh, so I was about to ask, how many women does Barry Windham pull down in a night?
Dear Lord.
We were all talking before the show,
Yeah,
and I
we
was
figured-
falling way
we-
behind, and
we
I'm like,
figured
don't
you're
worry, I
beating
got
them off
Barry
with
Windham's
sticks at
probably
the
got
bar,
about
so.
5 in the hand.
No, when I was married, I was good. But
Yeah.
she divorced me in '04, so I haven't been married since. So
Okay.
I'm still being good.
Not going to get married again, I hope. Good man.
Oh.
So you worked for Vince Jr., Crockett. You had a cup of coffee with Vern, I think, for a very short time, right? I think you wrestled up there for like a couple of events or something to that level, if I'm wrong, correct me.
AWA.
I just did one show. Rotundo and I worked with Kern and Stan Lane in the.
Like Super Clash or something.
Yeah, that was
like
actually a
right?
big show.
Yeah.
Wasn't even,
And then you worked for Bischoff also. Can you compare the four of them? I know you only don't have really any knowledge of Vern, but if you try to compare them.
Well, Bischoff was really a sharp guy, and still is. I just think that he let all the egos get him, and when you're paying that many guys that much money, and
the inmates took over.
yeah, they did.
The inmates took over. He made Vince sweat bullets, though. He's the only one who truly did. He made him sweat bullets. How about Crockett?
Jimmy was a good boss, but he just, I haven't talked to Jimmy in a long time, but he was good to work for, and I had a good relationship with him, but I guess he just let it get away from him, when he had to sell it to TBS. I mean, we were running a jet airplane and a G1 every night all over the country, and we were a small crew, so it was just it just wasn't ready to pop yet, so it was just a little before its time, I think.
Growing up in the age of Hogan and Flair, I have to ask you, do you think that Hulk Hogan, because we do, but I want your opinion, do you think that Hulk Hogan is the most important professional wrestler in the history of this business for the things that he accomplished? And do you feel, what is the difference between Hogan and Flair to you? Because we grew up with Hogan and Flair, and there was always the arguments, who's greater? I always felt that Hogan had more of an impact and Flair was much better in the ring. Any thoughts on those two? And is Hogan the greatest, the most important?
Well, Hogan is more of a showman, and I think he can wrestle, but I just I don't know the last time I've seen him really wrestle a match, but that's where that end of the business comes. It's entertainment, and you have to understand that, and you have to go with it, and I mean, there are different guys at different times. I guess there was Austin, and there's The Rock, and there's
Cena.
Hogan and Cena.
Right.
But I think Hogan led the way for them. But the rest of them, they just took it the extra distance. You know, I mean, Rock and Austin is still doing well. I don't know that he was as successful as Hogan, but I mean, you know, he's still relevant.
Yep.
Still talk about him.
What's more important for a professional wrestler, mic skills or mat skills?
I think now, mic skills, where it used to be mat skills and ability in the ring. But if a guy can really talk good and sell himself, then he doesn't really have to do that much in the ring.
Do you keep in touch with today's product at all? Do you ever take a look at it on television to see what they're up to?
Not as much as I should, you know, especially having a couple of nephews that are doing it. But
Your thoughts on them, by the way?
I've seen the thing that Windham is doing now, or Bray,
Yeah.
and I just watched it on YouTube. I watched 3 minutes of it, and it's
He's out there.
it's freaking wild.
No, it's good stuff. I think
I'm actually liking it.
I think it's going to take off. It's
I
good stuff.
might be in the minority. A lot of people are I think it's got a lot of potential. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
He's twisted.
Do you talk to them often?
Yeah, I was just at his house Thursday.
Wait a minute. I thought he lives in the swamp by the... Wait a minute. Wait.
No, he and JoJo just bought a house outside Brooksville.
There you
Big
go.
old place.
So
Okay,
do they ask you advice, you know, about the business?
How is Bo handling the... I can't stand what they've done with him. He's a former NXT champ.
Yeah.
Do they ever bounce or advice off you? Like, help me out here. What do I do with this? Tell them to be patient?
No, they don't really, because they don't really talk to their dad about it either.
Really?
But I guess, just because they're second generation wrestlers or third in their case, I know that they really were spending a lot of time with Arn, as an agent up there, and Arn's gone now, so that's a big difference for the company. And I think they're going to see a difference in the product with that. But as Windham is really a real creative mind, or Bray, and a lot of that stuff he can just come up with on his own, and he runs it by, let's see, who was he telling me that he ran it by? Anyway, one of the writers, and they smoothed it out, but it was...
Dewey Foley?
Dewey.
No,
That's Mick's kid.
It's a bad joke.
Yeah, we have fun with Dewey Foley. Did Dewey write that? Dewey done good.
Listen, how did you feel Barry Windham's mic skills were?
Interesting.
I don't really think I was strong on the mic. There was a time when I could talk on the mic, but you got to practice those skills and hone them all the time. And I try to stay away from doing as much of this stuff as I can.
Yeah. No, I get it. On your finger there is a Hall of Fame ring, I imagine, from being inducted with the Four Horsemen, correct?
Yeah.
Does Barry Windham belong in the Hall of Fame as a single wrestler?
Well,
Yes. I'm sorry. I couldn't sit there and let him ponder. But continue to ponder. Oh, yes.
compared to the other guys that are in, I guess yes.
Oh my God, yeah.
But it's just
God,
it's
outrage.
Vince's club.
Yeah,
And he got me in on the Horsemen, and that was just how he did it. And I
Were you
guess he just
surprised?
gave me a
Were you
favor.
surprised when you got that call? You expect to be included?
Yeah, I guess I was excited. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
And that was the best formation of the Horsemen.
Was in my mind.
I'm going to ask a question again. You don't have to answer. But you came back to the WWE as the Widowmaker, and this question is really about the Widowmaker. You leave. You have family issues. Your father and I think your brother get hit with counterfeiting situation. Can you tell us about that at all? I would think it was Kendall, right?
Yeah. All I know is just that they had a couple suitcases of counterfeit money. I don't know where it came from or what, but they tried to sell it to a crook, and he turned on them.
Fucking these goddamn ring rats, man.
Ring rat. What? Some ring rat.
But I don't know.
That's the
think
cheese.
My dad was almost out of the business at that point, and he was trying to start another business, and he was just. My dad was he was real frantic at that point. I just don't know what it was.
But he see through the interviews I've seen, he's been every Sunday we have Evan Ginsberg has a show from 11 till 1, I think.
Yep.
He is the associate producer of The Wrestler and 350 Days.
Yep.
And he's a big proponent for wrestlers having, full-time pensions, being in a union, the WWE taking care of all the injured wrestlers.
Medical.
I don't want to jump into that question with you yet, but through the shoot interviews I've seen with your dad, he pretty much was embarrassed about wrestlers who never saved their money, and he, looks like he thought that it was their responsibility to take care of themselves. So are you saying that your dad kind of ran out of money and he was, is that what happened?
He was living in Texas, and he and my mom came and lived with me in Tampa, Florida, with my brother, and he was trying to start an oil company.
That's
in Florida.
In Florida.
Pretty ambitious.
But, my dad was always full of big ideas and stuff. It was always the next get-rich scheme. But it just... I was lucky I was on the road with WWE, and I wasn't there for it because I'm sure if I was home, when the cops came to my house, I'm sure they would have taken me in. So luckily I was gone and not there, so that was a blessing. But the Secret Service and the FBI made my life difficult for 10 years after that. I mean, I was audited every year by the IRS. It was brutal.
Did they turn to you and say, Vince only paid you $9,000 for WrestleMania? What kind of bullshit is this?
They threw the investigation out. They're like,
it's
this
out of
is
here.
worth it. Freaking Vince. How about a wrestling question? I wanted to ask you about...
It's got to be about wrestling, man.
I'm the wrestling nerd. It's got to be. I wanted to ask you about your match with the great Muta at Super Brawl. Where do you rank that in your career? Thoughts on Muta, too?
I didn't really like the match.
Really?
And...
Okay. A lot of fans that do.
Muta really didn't want to, he didn't want to drop the title. He didn't want to put me over. But, it was just... I just know that he had a lot more in the tank that he gave that night. And it was hard pulling it out of him and trying to get him to do stuff. And that was just what I remember.
So for you, it was very frustrating.
I thought it was my night, and I thought,
you fucking sorry.
Well, yeah, I always felt like you always wanted that NWA title. That was important, for your legacy. And again, through shoot interviews, I think you were upset that Flair went to the WWF at the time and kind of left you in the lurch, and then Muta not really giving you 100%. Did that kind of just ruin everything for you?
Well, no. I mean, I had spent so much of my career being focused on that world title, working with Flair and going to our Broadways everywhere, and it was just he left over money and he took everything with him. And I was just so pissed off at him at that time, because of what he did, because he hurt our business and our company and all the business the way he did it. But, we talked about it a couple of years later and we smoothed it all over. But, well, yeah, I was pretty pissed off for a while.
Yeah, it cost you some money. It cost you a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Just personally, did you want that belt? When you finally got it, did you want that belt? Was that the pinnacle for you? Like, yes, I finally got this belt. Because we were psyched. We were like, yes, he finally got this belt. I mean, how did you feel? Was it important to you? To be
It
world
was.
champion?
It was important. It was important to get it. It's just that, I got hurt. I blew my knee out less than a month after I got it, and I still worked on it for a long time. But it was just.
Did that make you the highest paid in the company, being the champion?
Yeah, once you get the belt, are you on top? Nope. Look at him. Nope.
That's goddamn bullshit.
Justice! What's going on here? I bang on the desk, but Jim would get mad, so bang.
Wow.
Injustice. What is this?
So you're a big guy naturally. Your father was a big guy. How did you ever hit the gas?
Oh, the gas. Come on, Fast and
I
Furious.
thought about it.
Thought about it. Okay.
There was a doctor in Hershey, Pennsylvania, that all the boys would get stuff from, and
Nothing. Wait a minute. Hold on. Nothing in WCW. Just the WWE.
yeah. It was
Wait a minute. It was that doctor who used to sit in the lab coat
Yeah,
in the front.
jeez.
Like the guy he's talking about.
All right, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr.
Jack Savorkian or something like that.
Sovorian or
Yeah, something like that. I know
Sovorian.
I'm close. He would sit there with the glasses and a lab coat.
But I just remember, all the guys going in and seeing him and coming out with shopping bags full of stuff.
Right.
God,
What's
chic.
going on there? Rotundo and I were the young guys in the dressing room. We didn't know what was going on.
Oy.
So we had to get somebody to turn us on to what was going on, and it took a while to do that. But
But it never happened?
I took some stuff. I took some Winstraw one time, and all it did
What's
was
that?
it just made me lose weight. It just
Oh.
cut weight off me.
Yeah, I think
So
Winstrol
quit that.
cut you up, and I think Deca is the horse gas for you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's
He knows. I don't know about the horse gas.
it's okay.
I know about the White Castle gas. But that's, stop.
Listen, you've been around so many wrestlers, right, that have passed away. You were
Yeah.
you with Kurt Hennig towards late in your career. Did you know Kurt had a major drug problem, or did he have a major drug problem? And do you feel guilty at any point that maybe you could have stopped him? Because you seem like you've lived a pretty straight and directed
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I knew Kurt liked pills, and while I was around him, with the West Texas Rednecks, he and Bobby would travel together, and they would get zoned out of their minds. But never when he was working. He was never messed up when he was working. It was just always afterwards, and I don't know why. I spent a lot of time with Kurt and talked to him about it. I guess his wife had been injured, and she was on pain medication, and he was too, and it was just a bad mix.
When did you get the news that he passed away?
I found out that day. I'm trying to think who called. I think Bill Alfonso called me and told me. But yeah, it was just a bad deal. I mean, I've lost a lot of my close friends. Mike Graham.
A lot of people don't talk about Mike Graham a lot. Mike, from a fan's perspective, seemed like he was okay. From what I understand, his father committed suicide, and then Mike committed suicide. Did you know Mike had problems, or?
Well, when Mike's father, Eddie, committed suicide.
And by the way, I'm not making light of this at all. Billy Jack Haynes was in here,
Yeah.
and Billy Jack claims that Vince killed Eddie Graham to take over his territory. Just throwing that out there. And let's talk about Mike and Eddie, and then maybe you could talk about Billy Jack.
Well, Eddie killed himself, and Mike took it really hard. I mean, it was his dad, and he really idolized his father. But then his son killed himself. About a year, or it may have been 2 years before he did. And he just the day his son killed himself, his girlfriend called me and told me that Mike was a wreck. And I talked to him, and every time that I talked to him after his son killed himself, he asked me to bring him a gun. And you know, I told him, I said, I'm not going to bring you a gun. He said, where's your gun? I'm in your car. I know you got a gun under your seat. And I wouldn't carry my gun when I was around him for that purpose, because he was so set on it. But the night that he killed himself, his girlfriend or his wife then told me that they'd been out on Bike Week in Daytona in October, the October Bike Week, and they'd been out on the main street, and they went back to their condo or their house where they were staying, and Mike laid down on the couch and said that he'd be out in a minute, and that for her to go on. And when she got to the bottom of the stairs, she heard the shot. He wasn't himself the last couple of years after his son died. And yeah, I was just such close friends with him. It was just I was really, really pissed off at him for probably 4 or 5 years for killing himself. Yeah, you just can't believe that when somebody does that.
If you could do it all over again, is there anything you would change in your career?
Or if I could just add to that, if you could do it all over again, would you not be a professional wrestler?
Oh,
Oh man.
Just seems to be so much, as much as we all love what you guys have done.
it's a pretty heavy price.
It's a heavy price that you guys pay. And everybody's got a life problems, but it seems much more in the wrestling world.
It's just everybody has to live life, and everybody lives life differently.
Yeah.
And you know, this is just the way that I've lived, and I really don't know any other way. So I wouldn't do anything different.
Ole Anderson. Thoughts on Ole?
He's smiling already.
Ole, my old man hated Ole.
Another one.
Oh my God, this list is getting long. Go on.
He would. We had a match. It was one of our first matches as the Blackjacks, me and my dad, and we were against Ole and Gene in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I was selling, and evidently my old man didn't like the way I was selling because I was selling too much, or he thought Ole was hitting me or whatever. And he stomped into the ring and he punched Ole square in the face and knocked him out.
Knocked him cold.
Gene came and got me, brought me over to the corner. He said, just let him do their shit. He said, leave him alone. He said, it'll be over with before you know it. Oh man, just over him, just pelting him, and then goes back and gets out of the ring, stands on the corner. Ole. He was a bloody mess, but I mean, I watched my dad beat him up at least 3 or 4 different times.
Jeez.
I don't know. It was just something about Ole that he didn't like. So my old man didn't like Ole, so Ole didn't like me.
Oh man.
Sort of chain reaction.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Kendall? Do you feel like, because sometimes I wonder if Kendall got a raw deal. He didn't really ever get a push.
Yeah, I guess it's in the time that he started wrestling, and then I guess just being in my shadow. I don't know,
Okay.
but he never really got a chance, and you know, I think he was good enough if he'd have gone off on his own.
How did he
Probably.
take it, personally? Was he just, was he pissed about it years later? Or, I mean, is he he's cool with it?
Yeah, he's fine with it.
Okay, yeah. I had a couple of fans ask us. They were like, ask Barry about Kendall. Cause,
Do you
he
feel?
has some fans.
Do you feel that you surpassed your father's career?
Ooh. Interesting.
No,
Why not?
no, I mean, well, I mean, I still wear his hat, so it's just, I don't know if it's respect or love or what, but he was my dad, so I gotta go with
When he would beat Ole, would he then put the claw on his, inept, non-moving body to sell it at least? That's hilarious to me.
that. He was standing over and just wailing on his face, and then
love
just
this.
stopped and walked back over and went back out on the corner.
Just
Like, did I really They just do that.
Oh my God.
Did you ever have a shoot match? Like something went down in the ring that you weren't happy with? You had to stand your ground?
Not really. I mean, there were a lot of guys that I had to move around and put in position and, basically do their thinking for them. But that's just the way it is. Not everybody is up to the same par. And but I never had any fights or anything in the ring. I always tried to have the best match that I possibly could when I was in there. So if somebody was fucking around, I was quit fucking around and let's do this.
All right, we got about a minute left. What does Barry Windham do with his life now?
I just bought a new place in Brooksville, Florida, and I am putting the finishing touches on my garage. I build motorcycles and old trucks. I've got a 56 F100 pickup truck that I'm working on right now. And I've got a 46 Harley that is the motor and the transmission are in the frame, but no wheels on it. So I've got to finish that. But I've probably built
46.
I've probably built 20 bikes over the last 20 years.
Wow, it's great. So, does Vince McMahon owe wrestlers like yourself who have built this industry into a publicly traded company lifetime medical, pension?
Something.
What are your feelings on that?
Something.
And I only call Vince out because Vince is the only game in town now.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand back in the day you had Turner and
Sure.
blah, blah, blah. But
Not
at
anymore.
this point,
He's king.
are you owed?
Well, I mean, we all gave our bodies, and it was our choice.
True.
But I mean, he does run a hard ship to work on. I think there should be health insurance for the guys, and it wouldn't be any big deal for him to set up, a retirement for the guys where they put their own money back, and if they match, I mean, they're $1 billion company. They could do it. They just.
Why couldn't you guys unionize back then? What was the issue?
Too many backstabbers.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Because if one guy started talking about unionizing, then they just send him off.
Yep.
Just the way it is, the way it has been.
All right, final question. What was the biggest payday Barry Windham received?
Ooh, drum roll.
And what was your best year as a professional wrestler?
Ooh.
And the IRS isn't bothering you anymore, right? So
No.
nothing hidden there.
Yeah. No, he has to
My
answer.
best
Now he's got to
payout
answer.
was 90 grand.
Whoa. Sweet. I'll take it.
Oh, a payoff. What match was that
Who were you
for?
fighting?
I'm trying to think of what it was for. It was from Vince too.
Okay. Gonna go Vince.
Vinnie Mac?
Vinnie Mac.
Vinnie Mac there, Jim.
You're rich.
Pays you to play. Pays you to play.
That may have been what was owed to me on the rest of a contract, I think.
Okay.
That was the biggest lump sum at one time.
Wow.
Nice.
90 grand.
Probably went out and got 4 46 Harleys. Nice. That works. Well, there it is, Mike.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And the most I made in a year was $1.4 million.
Wow.
Nice.
Sweet.
And well deserved, by the
Absolutely.
way. Well
That was
deserved.
just 1 year.
Was that also with Vince, I'm assuming?
No, that was with WCW.
Get a load of this. Nice.
That's when Bischoff was,
Oh,
Turner was just signing deals.
Is that what
It's a good time to be a wrestler, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So in reality, you get your own medical insurance. You're good to go.
Yeah.
You need anyone's help.
Yeah. When I went to the hospital,
So,
I paid my own bills.
I would think you probably only regret as a professional wrestler is if you just could have been in this generation with these hot women wrestlers running around,
God.
right? Because I don't think you'd be such a faithful guy with these girls running
He
around.
didn't exactly have dogs during his time period either.
Hey, what'd you have? Wendy Richter and
Okay, I take that
Fabulous
back.
Moolah.
Yeah, I take that back. Yeah. Never mind.
We had some good-looking girls.
Yeah.
Wait, who?
What, Hyatt?
Medusa.
Oh, Medusa wasn't bad. That's right. Yeah.
Good-looking girl.
Yeah, she is a good-looking girl.
yeah.
She is. I stand corrected. You're all right. You're all right. Well, anyway, we want to thank you for joining us. It's like I said, it's our honor. I'm marked out. You are a Hall of Famer. You are one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And I thank you for allowing us to watch you wrestle and change our lives for whatever it's worth. So, a little lost words, but thank you for coming in. I really
thanks
do
for those
appreciate
teenage
it.
memories, those memories in our 20s and 30s, and thanks for coming down today.
There you go.
How
That's
about
why he's
them
the star of the show.
apples?
He clears that out, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, so this has been another episode of Monte The Pharaoh. Catch us on Thursdays, 8:05 to 9 p.m. I think on May 9th is Mr. USA Tony Atlas. And
Yep.
I'll try to stay away from Bruiser Brody questions on that.
Please.
We want to again thank Barry Windham, famous for Horsemen, Hall of Famer, WWE, and a $1.4 million annual salary. Thank you, Barry. Send us out, Pharaoh.
You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. Until next Thursday at 8:05 right here at Village Connection Radio. Later.